On this episode of the Professor's Randomness, I'd like to talk about some of the things I've learned about higher education over the course of my career as both a student and a professor. I've been since, well, I don't know, about 2001, 2002 or so. I've been either a full-time student or a full-time faculty member or a little of both. So I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I will count the 10 or plus years prior to that, where I was going to college sometimes and not going to college sometimes and dropping out of college over and over again during my 15-year journey getting my bachelor's degree. I'm talking about when I started taking college seriously, when I got the position as a juvenile correctional officer for the Old Texas Youth Commission and realized, hey, this is what I want to do for a living, and I need a college degree to be really successful at this, or at least to promote to certain places. So basically 20 years as either a student or a faculty member or both. And over the course of a couple of decades, I've learned a few things, and I like to share them. So I'm going to call this list my 10 tips for surviving college. Number one is to read. And this involves multiple types of reading. So first, read the syllabus. There's a lot of things in the syllabus that maybe you don't need to read right away, that you kind of file away in your mind. Well, if I need to know this, this is, it's in the syllabus. Things like classroom conduct stuff and the dead drop date and, stuff about plagiarism and academic integrity. If I need to know that stuff, I can look it up later. But some things in the syllabus you need from day one, like how to contact your professor and where his office is or her office is. You need to know what the course requirements are. What do I need to do to successfully complete the course? And that's all in the syllabus. And then you need to know things like due dates and when to read what, when both minor assignments and major projects are due. All that information is in the course syllabus. And so read the syllabus. You should also read the textbook. If for no other reason than you get paid $60, $70, $100, $200 to either own a copy, whether it's new or used, or you rented a copy, you're paying a fortune for that stupid thing. You ought to at least get your money's worth out of it. I know these days a lot of kids, because textbooks have gotten insanely expensive in some cases. And I know there's a lot of students out there. I've had a lot of students that will wait until the first day of the semester and then come to class and say, do we need the textbook? And inevitably, the professor's answer is 90% of the time going to be yes. Nothing irritates the professor as much as beginning a class and then realizing that none of the students in that class are prepared because none of them have done the reading. It's quite annoying. And then the final advice I would say about reading is then read for pleasure, read for enjoyment, read stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with school. Read detective novels, read science fiction, read romance novels, whatever you like, read it. And if you say, well, I don't have time for reading, well, turn off your streaming devices, quit watching your TV. Instead of streaming the next, rather than binge watching the next great thing on Netflix or Disney or whatever, read a book. A couple of things you gain from reading. One, it improves your reading. The more you read, the better you get at it. But, published books are heavily edited for grammar and sentence structure and spelling, things like that. And when you read, your brain subconsciously absorbs things like proper English and grammar and sentence structure. And I have found over 20 years in higher education that the more you read, the better writer you are. Second tip for you is be engaged. By that, I mean, go to class. If you are face-to-face or live stream student, go to class. If you're a fully online student, then engage all of the material that's available for you. Particularly for online learners, this is important because you're expected to learn everything pretty much on your own, and not necessarily at your own pace. But you're expected to pick it all up on your own, by yourself. And so, and professors put a variety of different types of tasks and lessons and assigned readings into their online courses. But if you don't engage with those things, odds are you're going to fail the class, and it's going to be your damn fault. If you're taking a face-to-face or a live stream course, actually go to class. Being engaged also means participating in class. When a professor attempts to engage you in a conversation, you should be responding. All right. One, it makes you memorable. It makes so the professor remembers you, which will comes into play later. Of course, to be engaged, you also have to be prepared for class. We go back to that whole reading thing. Read the material. Be prepared. Tip number 3 is to be proactive. By proactive, I mean start assignments early. So if I've got a 1-week unit or module in an online course where I have assignments due at the end of the week, and a lot of what I'm going to say here applies a lot to my online students. You've got an entire week to do this thing, whether it's a quiz or a weekly assignment, and you've been given a week. Take care of it. Don't wait until the day before it's due to start it. For some of you, that might work out just fine. For a lot of students, they'll wait till things due on Saturday night at midnight. They're waiting until Saturday morning to even look at the assignment. Well, here's the problem. You wait until Saturday morning to start working on an assignment, then run into a question at the end of the instructions. As professors, we do our best to write instructions so that everyone can understand them, but you understand, those things made sense when we wrote them, and they made sense to us. Maybe those instructions didn't make sense to you. And every once in a while, we just screw the pooch and make instructions that just aren't very clear. You wait till Saturday morning of the day the assignment is due to go, I don't really understand what the professor wants here. It's too late to ask for help. We don't work on the weekend. We work Monday through Friday. Some of us only work Monday through Thursday. I guarantee you email me on a Saturday morning, I might answer. I might not. But I might have plans that day. I might be out of town. I might be playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. The day something is due is the worst time to ask for help because you might not get it in time to turn something in. And that's not the professor's fault. That's your fault for waiting too long to ask for help. So be proactive, start early. This also applies to major projects like term papers or research papers or whatever your professor calls them in your class, or video presentations. Some project that takes place over the course of multiple weeks or an entire semester. If you are waiting till the last minute to begin major writing projects, odds are, unless you're a spectacular writer, you're going to fail. Tip 4 is to be familiar with your degree plan. Most colleges and universities either require or at least have available to you academic advisors that will help guide you from your first days of the college to graduation. And they're great and they do their jobs. And this is certainly not a rant against advisors. However, ultimately, the responsibility for getting you from day one to graduation is on you. It's your responsibility to know what the curriculum is. It's your responsibility to know what your requirements are for your degree. It's your responsibility to know which courses you need to take. And it is your responsibility when they are available to be familiar with course rotations. I will be honest. This is a lesson I learned the hard way. And then in my last semester as an undergrad at Tarleton, I ended up having to take statistics as an independent study because I didn't listen to as I was arrogant and thought I didn't need to listen to my advisor, and I wasn't aware of course rotations. Got to the end, and the only elective that was being offered that semester that I hadn't taken already, and the required statistics class I needed, were both at the same time. And so I had to take one as an independent study so that I could get both credits I needed for graduation. Um, being familiar with the degree plan, being familiar with course rotations, and listening to your advisor are the keys to avoid the mistake that I made that almost cost me. Tip number 5 is to be an effective communicator. Learn to write effectively. Cannot stress writing or written communication skills enough. Number one complaint college professors have of students at all levels, undergraduate, graduate, even doctorate students, is they can't write to save their lives. The other side of that is, I'm going to be honest with you, I got a PhD. I've held a PhD since 2010. They all talk about how difficult getting a doctorate is, and it's time consuming, can be a pain in the rear end. But at the end of the day, I'm, unlike some of my colleagues, I am not exactly the brightest bulb in the bunch. Okay. I am a man of average intelligence. There's nothing really all that special about me intellectually. And yet I'm a college professor at a state university. I hold a doctorate. I've got a few publications. I present at conferences. I come across as being I imagine I come across occasionally as being an intelligent person, but I'm just kind of average. How in the world have I been this successful despite the fact that I'm just kind of average? Simple. I can write well. How do you learn how to write? Go back to tip 1. The more you read, the better a writer you are. The other way to improve your writing is don't avoid the hard professors that make you write. Find the professors that A, make you write a lot, and B, tear your work up. I became a good writer because of professors like Dr. George Eichenberg at Tarleton State University, where I would turn in something to him that I thought was the best thing I'd ever written. And I came back and there was more red ink than black ink on my paper. He would just rip my work up from one side down the other. But in reading Dr. Eichenberg's feedback and doing what he told me to do, I got to become a pretty decent writer. Tip number 6 is to be memorable. Being memorable means being known to your professors. Use their office hours. Whatever university you attend, okay, professors are required by university policies to be in their office and available to students a certain number of hours a week. We got to be there. Part of our job. It's what we get paid for. It's also part of what you're paying for as a student. And those thousands of dollars you're paying for tuition, part of that you're paying for your professor to be available to you in his office or her office certain number of hours per week. Get what you pay for. You don't understand something? Go see your professor. You want some advice on an assignment before you turn in? Go see your professor. You don't understand why you got a certain grade on a test or an assignment? Go see your professor. Again, get what you pay for. But that also means the more time you spend with your professor, the more memorable you are. And eventually you want your professor to remember who you are, because for many of you, you're going to apply for a job and they're going to ask you for references. You're going to go to grad school and you're going to need a letter of recommendation. You're going to go to law school, you're going to need a letter of recommendation. And particularly going to graduate school or to law school, those letters of recommendation need to come from your former professors. If I don't know who you are, if I don't know anything about you, I can't write you an effective letter of recommendation. The best I can do is oh, a student did well in my classes and he's a, whatever kind of writer you are. That's all I can say. But the best letters of recommendation I've written are for students that have spent time in my office, getting help, asking for career advice, taking time to be memorable. Those are the students that I write effective letters of recommendation for because I know them. Tip number 7 is be focused. Not hyper focused, not obsessed, but remember that being a college student is your job. It should be your number one job. It should be one of your top 3 priority things in your life. Certainly don't put family over college. Or if you're a person of faith, you don't put college over your faith. But it needs to be up there. And it certainly needs to be more important than your Greek organization, your athletic programs, or your extracurriculars. If you're doing one of those things and it's interfering with your ability to be successful academically, you need to prioritize academics over, because those other things aren't going to get you a degree. They might help you get a job, but without the degree, you can't even apply for the job that having the extracurricular activity is going to get you into. So you be focused. You prioritize academics over things that aren't necessarily required. Don't come to a professor and say, I've got to go to this, my sorority is requiring me to go to this event and can I get an extension on assignment? Because 9 out of 10 professors are going to tell you no. I guarantee you, I will tell you no. If you're a student athlete and you've had an entire week to work on an assignment and your team travels on Saturday and you want an extension because your team was traveling on Saturday, I'm going to tell you that you should have done the assignment before your team left campus. And the answer is going to be no. So tip number 8 is be careful online. If you're someone that enjoys social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I don't know if YouTube's really social media, TikTok, Instagram, all those things. That I'm sure there are other things out there now that an old guy like me is just gets passed you by. Be really careful because all this stuff's out in the public domain. There are a lot of jobs where officially the employer by company policy, whatever's not supposed to look at your social media. I guarantee you the people are actually doing the hiring are looking you up on the internet. So be very careful about social media and what you post. For example, I'm talking about my field. You want to be a police officer. Don't post things on the Facebook about heading out to Colorado for the weekend to smoke weed. Don't be hanging out on the Instagram with known gang members and offenders. Don't be doing things and making TikTok videos of things that a future employer might look at and go, do I really want someone that does that working for me? Do I really want somebody that's going to show their ass on TikTok? Do I really want that person representing my agency or my company? No. Just be careful. What you put on social media is out there forever and can be retrieved even if you delete your account, delete your posts, whatever. If it's out there, it can be retrieved. It can be found by an investigator, and it might cost you a job. Tip number 9 is to be autonomous. Be a self-thinker. Don't let anybody tell you what to think. As a college professor, I've said it in previous videos, college professor, it's not my job to tell you what to think. It's my job to teach you how to think and to present you with knowledge. It's the difference between being a teacher and a professor. I am not a teacher. I am a professor. I profess knowledge. I know a whole bunch of stuff. Some of it's useful. Some of it is the best traits to pick up on your D&D character, meaningless stuff. In class, it's all Most 90% of it's useful stuff. But I profess knowledge. I share it with you. I either share the knowledge with you directly, or I set things up for you to discover the knowledge on your own. And frankly, as a professor, when I do that, it's when I'm doing my job the best. And I'm sure you've got teachers, you've probably got professors, you probably had teachers in grade school that try to tell you what to think. We'll reject all that. Find things out on your own. Be autonomous. The Webster's Dictionary, and I'm going to just read this off my own notes here. Autonomous in this context means existing or capable of existing independently. Right? I think that as adults, college students should be adults, which means listen to your parents because they're older and wiser, and they know and they have greater life experience. But at the end of the day, make your own decisions. Autonomous also means to respond or react or develop independently of the whole. You are an individual. Be one. Don't be a sheep. Go acquire knowledge on your own. What the professor tells you is the starting place, not the ending place. Don't let any of us, old crotchety professors, tell you what to think. Learn how to think. Take the information you give and then evaluate it on your own. That holds true for college professors. That holds true for teachers. That holds true for everybody that you encounter in your life. Finally, the last tip, number 10, is going to seem counter to everything else, but it's be self-caring. In the book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, the last habit is sharpen the saw. And it's the idea, this is what I got from the book anyway. It's the idea that if you wear yourself out emotionally, physically, spiritually, you become dull. I don't mean dull as in boring. I mean dull as in not sharp. That we become weaker and vulnerable when we become dull. You know, I tell you all the advice about being focused and proactive and all this, but in the middle of being focused and proactive, also make sure you take time to refill the tank. Get in your car and you drive and drive and drive and drive and never stop at the gas station. Eventually your car will stop running and you'll be stuck on the side of the road. Same thing is with you personally. If you are filling all your life with all this academic stuff and you are just going and going and going and going and never taking the time to refill your personal tank, eventually you're going to be on the side of the metaphorical road of life, exhausted and unable to go forward. And so take care of yourself. If you are stressed, if you're experiencing high levels of anxiety and stress in college, particularly a university like SFA, who has, we have excellent mental health resources for our students. Go take advantage of those things because they're free. Go talk to somebody. If you're not comfortable talking to a secular counselor, then go see your pastor or your imam or your rabbi, whatever that faith tradition happens to be. Go talk to your grandma. Talk to somebody. Get help. If you're just get up in the morning, you start finding yourself getting up in the morning, you're just wore out. Find that thing that recharges your batteries, whether it's reading, which is always good for you, listening to music, going to church, hanging out with your friends, playing role-playing games, playing video games, whatever it is. When you're setting up your priorities and you're scheduling, you're being proactive, make sure you proactively schedule some time for yourself. Don't destroy your health, whether it's your physical health or your mental health, to graduate with somebody else's idea of on time. Graduate in a reasonable amount of time. You take 15 hours a semester. Sometimes if you got a really hard schedule coming up, just take the 12 so you can pass and be successful. pick up the extra hours in the summer. If you're taking 15 hours during the school year, maybe rather than picking up semester hours during the summer to graduate early, take the summer off. Go get a job. Go backpacking around Europe. If you're, someone with university professor kind of finances, go backpacking around the United States. Go camping. Go on a road trip. Go fishing. Do whatever it needs to do to recharge the battery. Because if you recharge your battery, you're going to be much more successful. And that's it. Those are my 10 tips for surviving college. I hope that you got something out of this. If you got experiences to share or variations on the list or things you think I should have added to the list, include them in the comments below. If you've got anything you want me to expand upon, also include them in the comments. Until next time, ciao.